Kung Fu movies might just be the original Asian fusion, and Bruce Lee is the man who bridged the gap to American culture with a popularity few could have predicted. But what about the man behind the legend? A new movie brings us the story of the master who started it all. There's a reason they say it's love at first fight.
Bruce Lee. The name alone evokes images of lightning-fast strikes, superhuman reflexes, and unmatched martial arts prowess. But even for the most dedicated fans, some aspects of Bruce Lee's legend seem almost mythical. We're talking about feats of strength, speed, and control, pushing human capabilities' boundaries. From one-inch punches that send grown men flying to mind-blowing displays of agility, these moments are so incredible and outlandish that if they weren't caught on camera, they'd belong in the realm of comic books, not reality. In this video, we're diving deep into the archives and unearthing footage that will have you questioning everything you thought you knew about the human body. Lee's one-inch punch. Bruce Lee's one-inch punch is the most well-known move in martial arts history. As its name suggests, the one-inch punch is a technique martial artists use to hit targets at incredibly close range. The thought that, if done right, an attacker can exert enough force to bring down his opponent makes it unique. Bruce Lee's one-inch punch gained widespread recognition as early as the 1960s, about 10 years before Lee rose to prominence as a global martial arts celebrity. Lee became famous when he demonstrated it at the Beach Karate National Championship. At the time, the martial arts community took notice of him widely. Interest in Lee's one-inch punch increased dramatically as his notoriety increased. Although Lee made the move so famous that many renowned martial artists from different kung fu forms now utilize it, Lee remains the most well-known practitioner of the technique. Keep watching. The story is just getting interesting. Lee did not come up with the one-inch punch suddenly in 1964. It is based on Chinese martial arts in general and the instruction he received as a teenager. Lee's martial arts expertise began in the 1950s when he trained under Wing Chun Grandmaster Wing Chun, who laid the groundwork for Lee's form of Kung Fu, Jeet Kune Do. The one-inch punch's tenets derive from its theory, since Wing Chun is a fighting style for close quarters. Lee was already acquainted with techniques designed for close quarters combat because of his training in Wing Chun. Before the one-inch punch was publicly unveiled, Bruce Lee's pupil, James DeMille, provided insight into Lee's development method. He claimed that Lee developed an enhanced version of an already known Wing Chun move. Lee attempted to shorten the technique by experimenting with various stances and angles, since he thought it would be more effective if performed from a closer range. Eventually, they found a combination that worked. Lee demonstrated its power once by throwing someone 16 feet back and landing them squarely in a chair. Lee's accuracy, instant execution, speed, a crucial attribute for which the actor is currently well known, and the precise angle at which he accomplished it are all responsible for his accomplishments. Bruce Lee's one-inch punch is mighty because of his speed, which is also one of the reasons so few martial artists have been able to replicate it so well. Lee's father taught him the foundations of martial arts. During his teenage years, Lee got entangled in gang disputes in Hong Kong, which resulted in a lot of street battles. Lee's studies of Wing Chun had the most significant impact on his development as a martial artist. After suffering defeats at the hands of rival gang members, 16-year-old Lee trained in Wing Chun under Ip Man in late 1956 and early 1957. Form practice, sticking hand drills, wooden dummy techniques, and free sparring were the main components of Ip's regular lessons. The classes followed no predetermined schedule. Between 1956 and 1958, Edward, the coach of the St. Francis Xavier's college boxing team, trained Lee in boxing. In 1958, Lee defeated Gary Elms, the defending champion, via knockout in the Hong Kong Schools Boxing Championship final. Following his relocation to the U.S., Lee was significantly impacted by heavyweight boxing champion Muhammad Ali, whose moves he observed and adopted into his style during the 1960s. Lee advocated mixed martial arts training and was especially interested in grappling. In addition to Jean Labelle, Lee received instruction from several judo practitioners in Seattle and California, including Fred Sato, Jesse Glover, Taki Kimura, Hayward Nishioka, and Wally J. He studied as much as he taught, and many of his early pupils were skilled in judo and other martial arts. On the set of The Green Hornet, Lee became friends with Labelle and offered to teach him striking arts in exchange for learning grappling tactics. Lee's grappling tactics. Prominent grapplers Lou Thez and Ed Lewis had taught Labelle to catch wrestling, and vital judo and catch wrestling techniques can be found in Lee's Tao of Jeet Kune Do. Ji Hanjai, the Hapkido instructor, also taught him some grappling techniques. Glover claims that Lee's main observation about judo's ineffectiveness was when it came to seizing the opponent. During their first training session, Glover demonstrated an Osoto Gari for Lee, which Lee thought was a good technique, but he didn't appreciate that Glover had to cling to Lee. Lee learned how to avoid being tackled or taken to the ground by opponents while living in Seattle. Glover said that Lee would not go to the ground if he could get you standing up. Still, Lee told Labelle that he wished to incorporate judo into his fighting technique. He added judo throws, arm locks, and chokeholds to Jeet Kune Do, including the Osoto Gari. Lee showcased grappling moves in his films, including Way of the Dragon, where his character finishes his opponent Chuck Norris with a neck hold inspired by Labelle. Lee felt grappling was not very useful in action choreography because it was not visually distinctive. In addition, Lee and Han Jae trade grappling techniques in Game of Death, and Lee uses wrestling to subdue Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's character. The training regimen of the Great Gama, an Indian-Pakistani Pelwani wrestling champion renowned for his strength in the grappling hold, also impacted Lee. Lee used Gama's workouts as part of his regimen, but that's not all. The Dragon Flag Bruce Lee was an extreme sportsman. According to his widow, Linda Lee, he would watch TV athletes perform full splits and never miss an opportunity to work out. Bruce's wife claimed that he would practice and hone his talents virtually every minute of the day. He knew he would need to put in a tremendous deal of practice and exercise to be the best martial artist in the world. Building up his core was Lee's top priority out of all the muscles in his body, since he felt that the stomach region, or core, is involved in practically every movement and is crucial in martial arts. Lee created what is now known as the Dragon Flag in his honor to strengthen his core. It is regarded as one of the most challenging core workouts available if you can't figure it out. Since Lee didn't play around, though Lee is said to have been able to sustain his entire body on the edge of a bench with only his shoulders touching anything, while the rest of his body remained perfectly rigid and horizontal to the ground, Stallone may have popularized the move in Rocky IV. These days, martial artists worldwide use Bruce's Dragon Flag exercises as a standard because of his ability to make martial artists understand the value of having strong core muscles. Stay tuned. The best part of the video is just around the corner. Lee's superhuman strength. Bruce Lee's sheer power is one of his accomplishments that many people fail to recognize. Although it may seem apparent that a martial artist must possess strength, most people are unaware of Bruce Lee's actual level of strength. Most people think that having very massive muscles equates to strength. Most likely, when you imagine someone who is powerful, you envision someone roughly 6 feet tall with more muscles than they could need. But Bruce Lee was a tiny man, but he possessed strength beyond the reach of most people's imaginations. Examining his training bags is a simple method to demonstrate this. Bruce practiced punching and kicking with training bags like other people do, but he would devour these packages in an instant. He would frequently pound through or rupture standard punching bags to the point where it became inconvenient for him to use them. Bruce would therefore have to locate denser, heavier sacks that would not break under the impact of his extraordinary power. Remember that a typical punching bag weighs roughly 50 kilograms. However, Bruce frequently had to utilize bags weighing more than 135 kilograms. According to reports, Bruce was able to kick these bags many feet into the air, which just served to highlight how amazing things are. Bruce could send these sacks moving, but if you tried to kick one yourself, they probably wouldn't move more than an inch or two when you made contact. Bruce Lee understood the human body like a pro. Not only could he perform an astonishingly high quantity of push-ups, but he could complete them with just one hand. He was once put through a test to determine how many push-ups he could complete. Bruce boldly decided to go further and challenged himself to perform push-ups with just 2 fingers. He accomplished more than 200 push-ups in this try. Later, he set a higher standard and accomplished at least 100 push-ups using his thumb. If that weren't enough, he frequently performed hundreds of pull-ups with just one hand. But there's still another awe-inspiring accomplishment. Bruce Lee could perform more than 1,500 consecutive push-ups without pausing if you were to judge him only on his standard form. Although that is utterly unbelievable, that is the reality. There was no man like this. That's not all. Bruce Lee enthusiasts have long known this, but those unfamiliar with martial arts might not. Bruce Lee was acclaimed as one of the world's best martial arts actors when he shot to fame in the 1960s and 1970s, but he came dangerously close to failing in the film industry. You might wonder why, since he was just too quick. Filmmakers could not capture Bruce Lee's movements in real time when they worked on The Green Hornet, one of his most well-known TV series. We now own cameras capable of recording at 30, 60, 120, or even 240 frames per second. However, most cameras in the 1960s and 70s had trouble recording film at a speed of only 24 frames per second. As a result, most of Bruce Lee's fight scenes appeared incorrectly in the film. As the filmmakers soon discovered, Bruce could throw 9 punches in a second. In addition, he had a 6-second kickoff speed. Bruce appeared motionless in numerous combat scenes because capturing his movements on a camera that could only capture 24 frames per second at most was difficult. Producers on the set then claimed that the footage they captured showed Bruce standing still as his foes descended around him. In actuality, though, his talent was too outstanding for the movies to match. The filmmakers had to ask Bruce to slow down so they could follow him properly, which helped to correct the dilemma. But even after that, his movements appear quite hazy on camera. If you enjoy watching martial arts movies, you've watched Karate Kid before. When you watch the movie again, you probably remember a scene where Daniel LaRusso practices using chopsticks to capture flies. What looks easy on the surface turns out to be quite challenging. Bruce Lee, though, would go one further. Regretfully, there was never a flawless photo of this accomplishment. However, according to reports, Bruce Lee would throw pieces of rice into the air and use chopsticks to catch them. He took this action to sharpen his reflexes in the most remarkable manner imaginable. He was reportedly very expert at it, seeing the rice practically every time it was thrown into the air. His reflexes were significantly quicker than any of his rivals at the moment. And after all these years, nobody has been able to equal or exceed his achievements. It seems so complex that many people today question whether Bruce Lee was able to accomplish this accomplishment at all. However, this is simply one more instance of Bruce Lee's superhuman abilities. Jeet Kune. Bruce Lee is the creator and practitioner of Jeet Kune Do, also known as JKD. It is a hybrid martial art that translates to Way of the Intercepting Fist in Chinese. It developed as a new school of martial arts philosophy from Lee's experiences in unarmed combat and self-defense and eclectic Zen Buddhist and Taoist beliefs. As an eclectic martial art, it relies on a fighting style heavily influenced by Wing Chun, Tai Chi, Taekwondo, boxing, fencing, and Jiu-Jitsu. Bruce Lee himself never formalized Jeet Kune Do before his death, forcing later JKD practitioners to rely upon their interpretation of the philosophy created by Bruce Lee. The central idea of Jeet Kune Do is the interception of the opponent and making corresponding responses or counterattacks that strike at incoming attacks. JKD also incorporates principles to help practitioners make instant decisions and improve the physical and mental self. The story just got much more enjoyable. 4 universal combat truths that Lee believed were self-evident and, if followed, would lead to combat success were incorporated into Jeet Kune Do. He thought that the 4 combat ranges in particular were crucial to his development as a total martial artist. Additionally, mixed martial arts are mostly tied to this principle. The intercepting idea comes from the belief held by JKD practitioners that a potent offense is always the best defense. Lee thought an opponent had to approach a target to attack them. This presented a chance to intercept that assault or motion. Intercepting physical attacks is not the only application of the interception principle. According to Lee, many nonverbals and telegraphs, subtle motions that an opponent is blind to, can be read or intercepted and utilized to one's benefit. Forming the offensive aspect of JKD, the 5 ways of attack are attacking categories that assist practitioners of Jeet Kune Do organize their fighting repertoire. The defensive part of JKD consists of the ideas of stop strikes and stop kicks, and simultaneous parrying and punching, which were taken from European fencing and Wing Chun's principle of simultaneous striking and defending. Lee adapted these ideas for unarmed combat and incorporated them into the JKD framework. Additionally, these ideas support the other interception principle. Lee said martial arts systems ought to be as adaptable as feasible. He frequently utilized the analogy of water to explain why flexibility is a valued quality in martial arts. Water has limitless flexibility. It can be seen through, yet it may also sometimes make objects invisible. It can break apart, circumnavigate obstacles, reassemble on the opposite side, or smash through obstacles. It can flow by the tiniest pebble or slowly lap at the toughest boulders to dissolve them. These are the qualities Lee thought a martial system ought to possess. Because of this rigidity, JKD students reject conventional fighting tactics, training regimens, and Confucian pedagogy in traditional Kung Fu schools. JKD is an incredibly flexible, dynamic idea because it is constantly changing. Bruce Lee is credited with saying, "Take what is beneficial, throw away what is useless." It is encouraged by JKD students to study every possible kind of warfare. This is thought to increase one's understanding of other combat techniques, build up one's armory, and teach one how to counter such strategies. Lee, the magician. If you've ever watched a magician up close, you've undoubtedly seen this timeless trick of taking a coin from behind someone's ear. Most magicians master this fundamental trick at some time in their careers. Unbelievably, Bruce Lee used to execute an identical feat for his followers. Bruce Lee would offer you a coin and place it in your hand rather than hiding one behind your ear. He would want you to extend your hand as far apart as possible. Bruce then had you close your palm before he could take the coin from you, detecting even the slightest movement on his part. No one could ever stop this man from taking the coin out of someone's palm because of how fast he moved, but Bruce continued to refine the trick over time, making it even more impressive. Bruce would not only take the penny before the person could close their hand, but he would also replace it with a different one. Whenever you believed the situation was under control, he would open your palm and show you that a new coin had been inserted. Imagine, please, if this man had chosen to use his abilities for evil rather than good. He would have been an expert swindler. Fortunately, Bruce made a far more honorable life choice. Lee's legacy and impact. As a pop culture hero of the 20th century who united East and West, Lee is regarded by some commentators and martial artists as the most influential martial artist of all time and time, ranking Lee among the top 100 significant individuals of the 20th century. Lee has been the subject of several biographies. More than 4 million copies of a biography had been sold by 1988. Mixed martial arts, or MMA, is a combat sport inspired by Jeet Kune Do, a hybrid martial arts ideology developed by Bruce Lee that draws from several combat techniques. Bruce Lee popularized the idea of mixed martial arts in the West with his Jeet Kune Do system. According to Lee's beliefs, the most excellent combatant can change with the times, be unstructured, take on a unique style, and disregard established norms. Many people's interest in martial arts can be mainly attributed to Lee. Among them are several combat sports fighters who cite Lee as an inspiration. Boxing great Sugar Ray Leonard claimed he learned how to perfect his jab from watching Lee. Boxing great Manny Pacquiao likened Lee to his fighting style. And UFC champion Conor McGregor has drawn comparisons between himself and Lee, stating he thinks Lee would have won the UFC if he were still competing today. In the 1970s, Lee inspired Joe Louis and Benny Urquidez to start full-contact kickboxing events in the United States. Jun Gu Ri, the father of American Taekwondo, acquired what he refers to as the occupancy from Lee and adapted it into his style. The heavyweight boxing champion Muhammad Ali learned the occupancy from Ri, who later became his coach. Ali utilized this technique to submit Richard Dunn in 1975. Everyone wanted to be Bruce Lee. In the 1970s, heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson claimed. John Jones, the current UFC heavyweight champion, credited Lee as an inspiration. Jones is well known for often employing the oblique kick to the knee, a move made famous by Lee. The former UFC middleweight champion Anderson Silva has also mentioned Lee as an influence. Several other UFC competitors have called Lee their grandfather or godfather of mixed martial arts, and many have cited him as an inspiration. Lee is recognized for having influenced how Asians were portrayed in American movies. He disproved notions about Asian men that they are weaker than men. Tough, strong, and sexy is how University of Michigan lecturer Hye-Seung Chung described Lee's portrayal of Asian males, breaking with previous preconceptions that portrayed them as emasculated, infantile, coolies, or domestic servants. Lee's fame also created a new Asian stereotype, the martial artist. At first, audiences in North America who saw his films were primarily Hispanic, Asian, and Black.
Like when Brandon Lee died, he died on a set of a movie in a special effects scene. They shot him with a fake gun, a gun with blanks, but there was some piece of a shell or something that was still in the chamber of the gun, and that shot into him.
There aren't many people who die and are actively mourned and celebrated after more than half a century has passed, but Bruce Lee is one of such legends. While his life was one of great impact, his death is possibly one of the biggest controversies in the Hall of Fame.
Bruce, are you feeling better now? It's time to get up. Oh, come on. What's the matter? What's the matter? Wake up! Oh my God, wake up!
It is no surprise then that Joe Rogan, the famous podcaster, comedian, and UFC commentator, has made some revelations about how Bruce Lee died.
This is crazy. It says he died from a cerebral edema.
Right. Some Chinese guy could tell you anything. Listen, my father died of a heroin overdose, a heroin overdose. They told me he died of a heart attack.
But what could he have found? And how does it confirm the medical reports released at the time of Lee's death? And could there be possible ties to the death of Bruce Lee's son 20 years after?
44 caliber bullet was removed from Lee's body. Detectives are proceeding with the investigation.
Join us as we reveal everything about how Bruce Lee died. Bruce Lee's legacy. When Bruce Lee was born on November 27, 1940 in San Francisco.
My last name is Lee, Bruce Lee. I was born in San Francisco in 1940. I'm 24 right now.
Nobody could have known he would change cultures, martial techniques, the movie world, and impact the lives of millions of people. His father, Lee Hoi-Chuen, was a Cantonese opera singer, and his mother, Grace Ho, was of Eurasian ancestry. It was shortly after his birth that the Lee family returned to Hong Kong in April 1941, even though times became tough due to the attack on Hong Kong by Japan in December 1941. Bruce began his acting career as a baby in the film Golden Gate Girl because of his father's career in entertainment. As he grew, he adopted the stage name Lee the Little Dragon, which was given to him because he was born in the year of the dragon. By the age of 18, Bruce had appeared in 20 films. He attended Tak Sun School and later LaSalle College, where his interest in martial arts began to take shape. But there was more to come, and what you're about to hear will blow your mind.
On July 20th, 1973, Bruce Lee died tragically at the age of 32. The official cause of death, a fatal reaction to aspirin.
In 1953, Bruce started training in Wing Chun under the guidance of IP Man, despite facing initial resistance due to his mixed heritage. His dedication and talent helped him overcome these challenges, and he continued his training. Bruce also excelled in boxing, winning the Hong Kong School's boxing tournament in 1958. And he was a skilled cha-cha dancer, winning the Hong Kong's Crown Colony Cha-Cha Championship the same year. As a teenager, Bruce got involved in street fights, and they became so frequent that his parents sent him to the United States in 1959 to claim his U.S. citizenship and pursue a safer path. Bruce settled in Seattle, where he finished high school and later enrolled at the University of Washington to study various subjects, including drama and philosophy. During this time, he began teaching martial arts, developing his own style called Junfan Gung Fu. In 1964, Bruce moved to Oakland, California, and founded his second martial arts studio. His performance at the Long Beach International Karate Championships that year, where he demonstrated the two-finger push-up and the one-inch punch, put him in the spotlight, as began to be recognized as a martial artist. This led to a controversial match with Wong Jackman, which influenced Bruce's philosophy and the development of his own martial art, Jeet Kune Do.
Well, Kung Fu is originated in China. It is the ancestor of karate and jiu-jitsu.
Bruce's television career began in 1966 with his role as Kato in The Green Hornet, which introduced him to American audiences. Despite the show's short run, it helped showcase his martial arts skills, especially since he refused to westernize his Asian martial arts style. After The Green Hornet, Bruce faced challenges finding significant roles in Hollywood, partly due to racial biases. In the early 1970s, Bruce returned to Hong Kong, where he quickly became a star with films like The Big Boss in 1971 and Fist of Fury in 1972. These films broke box office records and established him as a leading martial arts actor. Bruce took full creative control with The Way of the Dragon in 1972, where he was the writer, director, star, and fight choreographer.
He was a philosopher, he was a writer, he was a father and a husband, he was an actor, he was a director, a producer, he was a teacher.
This film featured a memorable showdown with Chuck Norris and is still celebrated as one of the best fight scenes in martial arts cinema.
So he called me up and said, I want to do a movie with a fight scene that everyone will remember called Return of the Dragon. He said, would you come over and do the fight scene with me?
Bruce began working on Game of Death in 1972, but paused production to film Enter the Dragon, a joint venture between Warner Brothers and Golden Harvest. With all he had going on and the global recognition he was getting, it was sad and unexpected news when he passed away on July 20th, 1973, just before the release of Enter the Dragon, which became a huge success and established his legacy. His unfinished film, Game of Death, was completed using stand-ins and footage from his real-life funeral. It was released 5 years after his death to an audience still reeling from the shock and not ready to accept that Lee's role had been filled by another actor. Despite this, it went on to become a commercial success, but it seemed like a cynical cash-out because of the untimely and mysterious death of a global hero. But the story doesn't end here. The most epic moment of the video is still ahead. The mysterious circumstances of Bruce Lee's death.
Mysterious death of a true action hero. Who or what killed the one, the only, Bruce Lee?
Bruce Lee's death on July 20th, 1973, at the age of 32, remains one of the most gripping and controversial topics surrounding his existence. The official cause of death was listed as cerebral edema, a swelling of the brain.
This is crazy. It says he died from a cerebral edema.
However, the exact circumstances and contributing factors to his sudden demise have been the subject of much speculation and numerous conspiracy theories over the years. On the fateful day of July 20th, Lee was in Hong Kong preparing for a dinner meeting with actor George Lazenby, discussing future film projects. Earlier that day, he had met with producer Raymond Chow at his home to discuss Game of Death.
This script is pretty good. The Tower of Death scene is my favorite one. But first, I'd like your husband to help out. The film script still needs to be altered just a bit.
They worked on the script until 4 p.m., after which they drove to the residence of Betty Ting Pei, a Taiwanese actress and Lee's colleague. They continued their work on the script at Ting's home until Chow left for a dinner meeting. Lee decided to take a nap at Ting's home but failed to wake up in time for his dinner engagement. Chow, concerned by Lee's absence, returned to Ting's apartment and found him unresponsive. Despite the efforts of a summoned doctor, who tried to revive him for 10 minutes, Lee was pronounced dead upon arrival at Queen Elizabeth Hospital. He was only 32 years old. Joe Rogan's speculations and findings on Bruce Lee's death. Joe Rogan often expresses his admiration for Bruce Lee, acknowledging his immense contributions to martial arts and his cultural impact. However, Rogan has also looked into the darker aspects surrounding Lee's untimely death. On his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, he discusses various theories and findings related to Lee's demise, seeking to uncover the truth behind the legend. One of the most controversial topics Rogan has addressed is the role of drug use in Bruce Lee's death. Rogan has pointed out that during the 1970s, drug use was not uncommon in Hollywood, and since there were allegations that Lee may have been involved with substances such as hashish, there is a possibility that his drug use could have contributed to his tragic end by contributing to and increasing his health issues. Going beyond medical explanations, Rogan has not shied away from discussing various conspiracy theories that have emerged over the years. In an episode with Joey Diaz, they explored the possibility of foul play. Their conversation went into the dark theories about the entertainment industry, suggesting that Bruce Lee's death might have been orchestrated by those unhappy with his business dealings. Joey Diaz speculates that Bruce Lee's death could have been an inside job, possibly executed by powerful individuals in the industry who had grievances over sour business deals. Diaz highlighted the suspicious nature of Bruce Lee's death and drew parallels to the untimely demise of Lee's son, Brandon Lee, who died under mysterious circumstances on a movie set years later. This speculation implies that influential figures might have wanted Bruce Lee out of the picture due to his rising stardom and the financial success of his films. Bruce Lee's blockbuster movies, such as Enter the Dragon, had achieved significant financial success, raising eyebrows and fueling claims of resentment from his former business partners. Raymond Chow, a pivotal figure in Bruce Lee's career, who played a significant role in bringing Lee back to Hong Kong's film industry and co-founding Concord Productions with him, gained complete control of Concord Productions, which eventually folded. This led to speculation about Chow's potential ulterior motives. The rapid acquisition of Concord by Golden Harvest, where Raymond Chow assumed a prominent role, added even more fuel to these suspicions. Making his death more mysterious is the fact that several years later, Bruce Lee's son, Brandon Lee, died in a freak accident. Bruce Lee's children. The global martial artist and actor had 2 children from his marriage to Linda Brandon and Shannon Lee. Although Shannon was 4 years old when her father passed, his son was old enough at 8 to have been influenced by his father's love for martial arts and acting. So it wasn't a surprise that Brandon Lee followed his father's footsteps, taking Bruce Lee's legacy into a new generation. Unfortunately, Brandon's career and life was also cut short. Brandon Lee died on March 31, 1993, while filming the movie The Crow. The accident occurred during the filming of a scene where Brandon's character was supposed to be shot with a revolver. The prop gun used in the scene was supposed to fire blanks, which are cartridges that produce a flash and sound but no projectile. However, due to a series of oversights, a real bullet fragment was lodged in the barrel of the gun. This fragment was discharged when a blank round was fired, hitting Brandon in the abdomen. After the incident, Brandon was rushed to the hospital where doctors worked tirelessly to save him. Unfortunately, after several hours of surgery, Brandon Lee was pronounced dead. The deaths of Bruce and Brandon Lee share several eerie similarities, which have fueled numerous conspiracy theories and heightened the public's fascination with their tragic fates. Both Bruce and Brandon died young, Bruce at 32 and Brandon at 28, at significant moments in their careers. Both were on the brink of significant success in Hollywood, with Bruce making a global impact through martial arts films, and Brandon poised to break into mainstream Hollywood with The Crow. The one surviving child, Shannon Lee, has made it a mission to advocate for her father's legacy and continue the impact that he started. Although she does not remember much about him, she is a follower of his philosophies and even studied Jeet Kune Do under Richard Bustillo, one of her father's students. However, her serious studies did not begin until the late 1990s, when she trained with Ted Wong to prepare for roles in action movies. She has been outspoken in her admiration for her father, and usually lends her voice to challenge narratives that her father was perpetually angry or arrogant. While she acknowledges that Bruce Lee, like anyone, experienced moments of frustration and intensity, she emphasizes that these were balanced by his deep introspection and commitment to personal growth. Like her father, Shannon has a career in acting, appearing in films and television shows throughout the 1990s. Some of her notable roles include appearances in Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, High Voltage, and the TV series Martial Law. She has also collaborated with Perfect Storm Entertainment for a film series named Warrior, based on an original idea by Bruce Lee. In addition to addressing Hollywood representations, Shannon has confronted the persistent conspiracy theories surrounding her father's death. Shannon consistently works to debunk the theories that suggest foul play and urges people to focus on Bruce Lee's extraordinary achievements and his significant impact on martial arts and cultural representation. Shannon also oversees initiatives and collaborations aimed at preserving Bruce Lee's teachings and ensuring that his philosophies continue to inspire future generations. She is currently the CEO of the Bruce Lee Foundation, and her work tells of her dedication to ensure impact through the teachings, philosophies, and martial art practices of her father, Bruce Lee. The many people who have been impacted by Bruce Lee show that his philosophies hold great value, and we will explore these philosophies in the next part of the video. Bruce Lee's philosophies. Bruce Lee's legacy goes far beyond his movies and martial arts skills. His influence has penetrated various areas of culture, sports, and philosophy, and continues to inspire millions worldwide. He advocated for the idea of using no way as way, having no limitation as limitation, encouraging individuals to transcend traditional boundaries and limitations. His book, Tao of Jeet Kune Do, published posthumously, shows his philosophical depth and has influenced not only martial artists, but also people in various fields who seek to overcome obstacles and achieve their fullest potential. Lee's teachings often emphasize self-actualization and personal growth. Some of his quotes like, "Be water, my friend," express his belief in adaptability and resilience. This philosophy resonates with people facing various challenges, encouraging them to remain flexible and adaptable in the face of adversity. His ideas on personal development have found applications in areas such as sports psychology, leadership, and personal coaching. But that is not all. Lee's development of Jeet Kune Do, often referred to as a style without style, transformed martial arts. Unlike traditional martial arts that adhered to strict forms and techniques, Jeet Kune Do emphasized practicality, efficiency, and adaptability. This approach has influenced modern mixed martial arts, MMA, where fighters blend techniques from various disciplines to create a more versatile and effective fighting style. Lee was largely responsible for many people taking up martial arts. These include numerous fighters in combat sports who were inspired by Lee. Boxing champion Sugar Ray Leonard said he perfected his jab by watching Lee. Boxing champion Manny Pacquiao compared his fighting style to Lee, and UFC champion Conor McGregor has compared himself to Lee and said that he believes Lee would have been a champion in the UFC if he were to compete in the present day. Lee inspired the foundation of American full-contact kickboxing tournaments by Joe Louis and Benny Urquidez in the 1970s. American Taekwondo pioneer Jun Gu Rhee learned from Lee what he calls the acupunch, which he incorporated into American Taekwondo. Rhee later coached heavyweight boxing champion Muhammad Ali and taught him the acupunch, which Ali used to knock out Richard Dunn in 1975. According to heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson, everyone wanted to be Bruce Lee in the 1970s. Current UFC heavyweight champion John Jones cited Lee as inspiration, with Jones known for frequently using the oblique kick to the knee, a technique that was popularized by Lee. Former UFC middleweight champion Anderson Silva has also cited Lee as an inspiration. Numerous other UFC fighters have cited Lee as their inspiration, with several referring to him as a godfather or grandfather of MMA. Even more, Bruce Lee changed history when he refused to change his Asian martial arts style to adapt to the West. And the intersection of Western and Asian culture presently can be traced to his philosophies and his contributions in martial arts. Lee is credited with helping to change the way Asians were presented in American films. He defied Asian stereotypes, such as the emasculated Asian male stereotype. In contrast to earlier stereotypes which depicted Asian men as emasculated, childlike, coolies, or domestic servants, Lee demonstrated that Asian men could be tough, strong, and sexy, according to University of Michigan lecturer Hee Seung Chung. In turn, Lee's popularity inspired a new Asian stereotype, the martial artist. Within black communities, Lee's popularity was second only to heavyweight boxer Muhammad Ali in the 1970s. As Lee broke through to the mainstream, he became a rare, non-white movie star in a Hollywood industry dominated by white actors at the time. According to rapper L. Cool J, Lee's films were the first time many non-white American children such as himself had seen a non-white action hero on the big screen in the 1970s. Lee is considered by some commentators and martial artists to be the most influential martial artist of all time and a pop culture icon of the 20th century who bridged the gap between East and West. Time named Lee one of the 100 most important people of the 20th century. Numerous biography books have been written about Lee, one of which had sold more than 4 million copies by 1988. Lee was largely responsible for launching the kung fu craze of the 1970s. He initially introduced kung fu to the West with American television shows such as The Green Hornet and Kung Fu, before the kung fu craze began with the dominance of Hong Kong martial arts films in 1973. Lee's success inspired a wave of Western martial arts films and television shows throughout the 1970s-1990s, launching the careers of Western martial arts stars such as Jean-Claude Van Damme, Steven Seagal, and Chuck Norris. Lee's influence extended to the integration of Asian martial arts into Western action films and television shows during the 1980s, 1990s. Enter the Dragon has been praised as one of the most influential action films of all time. Sasha Matuzak of Vice said, "Enter the Dragon is referenced in all manner of media, as the plot line and characters continue to influence storytellers today, and the impact was particularly felt in the revolutionizing way the film portrayed African Americans, Asians, and traditional martial arts." A number of action filmmakers around the world have cited Bruce Lee as a formative influence on their careers, including Hong Kong action film directors such as Jackie Chan and John Woo, and Hollywood filmmakers such as Quentin Tarantino and Brett Ratner. Bruce Lee's influence cannot possibly be measured as it continues to expand even today. The controversies surrounding his death remain relevant because the world feels cheated out of a man that would possibly have made a more revolutionary impact had he been alive. However, while the world learns to accept this loss, we are also learning to keep his legacy alive. Was Bruce Lee's death deliberate, or was it just an unfortunate twist of fate? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.